Good morning. Had a little technical difficulty this morning getting started. This is my third or fourth episode of Dennis the Monk. And I am excited to be here sharing with you today's topic, which is the secret behind following your heart. Now, when we talk about following your heart, we have to take into consideration that the heart is the gatekeeper or the sentinel between our humanity and our spirit that exists with God in the universe. And it's the heart that is the place where the magic happens. Magic, miracles, interchangeable, but that's where it happens, what enables us to see the world around us and interact with it, to create extraordinary experiences that for some seems ordinary, but they become ordinary when you put them together in slices of time and you see the consistency of how God and the universe bring all kinds of wonderful, amazing, crazy things to our lives. So I want to explain about the heart. Now, in a previous episode, I talked about the heart being the place of objective truth and objective love. And I explained how objective truth is not relative. The reason why we call it objective is because it's like a math equation. Many years ago, there was this old man called Maimonides, Moses ben Maimonides, I don't know how many thousands of years ago, but he created the understanding of logic, the square of opposition, and this how to take logical progressions in the words people say or even actions and understand what is objective truth, making it valid, listed, a little technical. But anyways, it enables us to see what truth really is. We talked about that in a previous episode. And then last week, we talked about objective love. There were 15 attributes of objective love. I used 1 Corinthians 13 to explain them. I went through them and explained how each one of them, say like kindness. Kindness has a continuum of say 1 to 10. It's a scale. And you take kindness and what is the epitome of kindness and what's the opposite. And we developed an understanding that love can be measured, and when you measure and do the averages of those 15 different examples of love and categories of love, come to a 7.5, which is you get it, look at the previous one, you figure that one out. But so now we're at a place where we can talk about something that's really extraordinary. The heart is the gatekeeper. It's the sentinel between our humanity and our spirituality that interacts with God in the universe. It's important that in order to gain access to our heart, we have to understand there's a difference between our intellect of the mind. Usually the mind, when it's undisciplined, is the seat of the ego that usually controls us instead of us controlling it. Let me explain that. The ego, for me, the ego either tells us we're less than or better than. Humility, being honest with self, others, and our higher power, which I choose to call God. Humility speaks the truth about myself and the world around me, but relative to me. So the ego will say that I'm less than or better than, but humility tells me the truth, that I'm not better than or less than anyone. But just think about this. If I'm not better than or less than anyone, how many times do I deal with issues of confidence? Why do we have a lack of confidence? Or why do we see people that have this sense of overconfidence? Well, my lack of confidence is because I'm not recognizing the truth about me. I'm only seeing myself through the ego, which says I'm less than. So because I feel less than, I compensate. And the ego tell me I'm less than. So, or people who are overconfident, people who are arrogant, people who are controlling, manipulative, coercive. Why? The ego is oftentimes telling them that it could go either way, that they're better than, or it could be that they're so extremely down on themselves and are afraid, so seriously afraid of being vulnerable that their ego has to elevate them. But inside they're elevated in the way people look at them, but inside they're almost dying, crying, starving to be truly who they are. So this process of coming to know who we are is only through the place of the heart. In the place of the heart, where there's that, again, we see the world around us with objective truth and objective love. we also look at ourselves through the lens of objective truth and objective love. What happens when we look at ourselves with objective truth and objective love? I recognize that I'm beautiful to people. I don't have the flat stomach. I don't have the six pack. I've been trying to do that my whole life. It hasn't come. Maybe it will, but I have to learn to love me regardless of how I am and how hard I try to be better than, not better than, but better than I am right now with me. It can interfere. But when I learn to accept me and love me just as I am, physically, emotionally, and intellectually, with all the we call character flaws, those creepy things that work in our head that make us crazy, when we come to love ourselves, it's only then that we can love other people. I'm a Christian, so the universal principles I use, even though you can find them in Christianity, in real Christianity, not those that think they are in judge and condemn, but real Christianity, which is non-judgmental, compassion, understanding. That's what the characteristics of real Christians should be. So, and I use these values because I know them well. I've been a monk for 34 years. I've lived them in my monastery. They just were part of my whole being. But you will find them. These universal principles are not just in Christianity. They're in other many religions. I just happen to find the fullness of all of them in something that's familiar to me. So, what is the secret about following your heart? When we discipline the mind and we get control over it, so and particularly control over the ego, so we kind of push the ego out because it was once there to protect us, which we don't need. We need humility. We're old enough. We have the skill sets like what's humble, what's true. So when I can discipline my mind, so it becomes an asset, and I can go into my heart to make decisions through objective truth, objective love, not my ego saying I'm better than or less than, but perhaps my mind helping or aiding or being an asset to my heart in understanding whatever it is that we need to understand. Am I truly in love? I met someone. Is this really love? Well, you can tell if when you move into your heart and you begin to look at it objectively with truth. And what does real love look like? Love is patient. Love is kind. We saw that in the previous episode I did. We talked about objective truth. Now we can say, is this real? Another element to the heart that moves into the spirit, but it's also the experience of energy. Example, last night I was with my Stephen and my dear friend Robin, and I met this seemingly wonderful woman. She was beautiful, attractive. She made mention of my mustache and how whatever it looked, and all I could see was her beauty. But then there was a part of the conversation where I felt like I needed to pull away because she was talking so much. And then through the help of the people that I love, Robin and Stephen, I could feel the energy, and I could feel my energy being drawn, but I couldn't think quick enough to understand why. It was only afterwards that I understood that the conversation was all about her. She didn't ask anything about me, or she seemingly wanted to, but then she kept on talking about her and repeating herself. Objective love and objective truth understands these universal principles of giving and receiving. She was taking. She was talking about her, but not participating in a conversation that included other people. That's only one element of when we move into the heart, what we can do. We can understand energy, we can understand truth, we can understand really what love looks like, and then it synthesizes what we can do with humanity. And the reality is, we're called to live from our heart and our spirit because we're human, and we're called when we're there to see the objective reality around us so we can truly serve others, not in the way we want to serve them, but in the way they need us to serve them. It also helps us in relationships. I usually love people the way I wanted to be loved, and nobody needs to be loved that way. I need to know them, the other person, so I can love them in the way they need to be loved. That's one of the reasons why this person created the 5 love languages, and you test yourself and you say, what's my love language? Because when we learn each other's love language, I can love the other the way they need to be loved and not the way I need to be loved. I can go on about this for a long time because it's so exciting and it's powerful when you actually put it in action in the world around us, whether it be walking on the streets of New York where I am today, or being at home, family, friends. Anyways, that's the end of this episode of the show. I was going to say the Showman of the Monk. No, it's I don't know, who am I? Dennis the Monk. That's it. So this is the end of this episode, and thank you for watching. And I look forward to seeing you next time, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Hopefully only 10 minutes, and I went over today, so I was all confused. But anyways, love you all. Have a great Sunday and the rest of the week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Same time, same channel, and same mustache. Bye now.